Tommy Harris, Hakeem Hicks, Ed Obradovich, and Chris Zorich, with your hosts, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
We got some big guys up here. Impact players for your Chicago Bears, some of the most dominant defensive linemen in NFL history up here. We got Hall of Famers, all-decade performers, Pro Bowlers, many members of the Scapbrook 100. We got a lot of guys and a lot of good stories to talk about. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay. We doing good out there? We're going to show them some love. Big Tom Thayer, watching these guys roll in here, and hey, I'm a little guy. You're an offensive lineman. You were a big guy. These guys are bigger. This would have been intimidating. Now, Tommy slimmed up. Tommy slimmed up, but he was a big guy. This is some nasty up here.
You know, my earliest memories of Bears greatness is Ed Obradovich, because he used to be around the locker room a lot. And then when I started looking at information, you see the interviews of how much it meant for him to be a Bear, his player greatness, and everything he meant to the defensive line and defensive reputation of the Chicago Bears. And then, you know, being teammates with Hamp and Chris and stuff.
And there he is right there, Ed Obradovich, baby, number 87.
Boom! You think of OB and Doug Atkins on the same defensive line, the destruction they caused back then, and you think it can talent transfer from one year to the next. There's two guys that could play 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. It's Bear greatness.
Ed, when you see those highlights of yourself, what goes through your mind?
I'd like to be playing today.
Right, Ed over here. Ed over here.
You know,
Woo! Look at you move, baby.
you know what? I sit here and I look at this, and football in any decade is real serious business. And I played in what people would call the most violent decade of football, and that was in the 1960s. And there was one rule, and that one rule was there was no rules. We had a coach by the name of George Allen, who's in the Hall of Fame, and he was our defensive coordinator. And he came up with defenses and maneuvers and settings that we play our opponents, we would annihilate them. They didn't know what the hell we were doing, had no idea. And one of the things that George came up, and you see it in today's game, in all of them, you see where the back will come in and check to see if anybody's coming inside, and if not, then he'll wheel around the defensive end for a 6-yard hook or out in the flat or something. Well, when they played the Chicago Bears, you couldn't do that because George Allen came up with a thing called hanging. And what that meant was you never let a back come out around you. When you're rushing that passer and that back comes around her, you hang him. You try to catch him right in the throat and bring him down. That's fact.
Hey, Ed.
And then, one more thing. And then there was another terminology. How about hanging? And this one was ground them. And when that came from the ends in. So at the defensive tackles, if it was an even number, an overshift to the street, stronger, weak side, whatever. And if you let that back, you never let a back get through. Because he did the same thing. He came up and they tried to sneak through the middle of the line. And, you know, and they're always the outlet pass. And again, you see it in every game, every week now. It doesn't matter. Well, when they played the Bears, they didn't get through. Those guys tried sneaking by, you know, getting lows. And either Fred Williams or somebody, I mean, they'd whack him and drop him like a sack of salt.
Ed, earlier we had Dick Butkus up here, and he was talking about some of the tackles he made against the Green Bay Packers. He said the reason he was able to make the tackles is because you had 3 guys on top of you blocking you, and he had no one else to block him, so he would just run and make the play. And That's the sacrifice of every great defensive lineman.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, I wish the hell they would have paid me like that. You know what? When I heard, and you young guys, let me tell you something. Get every damn thing you can get. Because I tell you, when it's over, it's over. And you get out into the real world. But I'll tell you what, the Chicago Bears are the footing and the foundation of the National Football League. And since 1946, and again, this is what the hell gripes me. 1946, we won the World Championship twice, 63 and in 85. Now, enough's enough. I think what I see today in this coaching staff, and I see the enthusiasm with this young team, and they better come and they better get it. Because I'll tell you what, folks, you're not going to see these guys playing at this level for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. It's not going to happen. It's in front of them. They better see it. And I like the Bears a lot, but I'll tell you, it's up to those kids. You know?
Akiem Hicks, you're one of the guys in the front line, tearing it up. Great advice from a veteran like this from the 1963 championship team. I know you were interested in seeing these guys and talking to these guys as fellow defensive linemen, but it's interesting to hear the old stories and how you try to fit it into today's world, isn't it, in terms of football?
He's got my blood boiling right now. I'm sorry. Look, I'm juiced up. I'm ready to go play right now. The question was, is it great to be in here with these guys? Yeah, it's awesome, man, to see the history of the Bears and see the guys that I watched growing up, even though I had to watch some of it on NFL films, and I got to meet guys like Tommy Harris and watch guys. It's, for me, I love the game of football, right? So I got to watch these guys, and it gave me something to aspire to. And so it's just a pleasure to be up here with them.
Dan Hampton, I know this man means everything to you. OB,
Well,
you guys are tethered.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, and you can listen to this man talk for about 3 minutes and just realize how much he cared about playing the game of football for the Chicago Bears. Let me tell you something, folks. You know, and this doesn't just happen by osmosis. You have to have a core that refuses to lose. And that 63 championship team. And, you know, when I first got here, I was very fortunate. After a year or two, Butkus, OB, some of the guys, they took a liking to me, and I would go out to eat dinner with them, and they would tell me what it was like to play the game at the level that you have to if you want to be a world champion. And Mongo and I, we would talk about it. And we'd go back to the locker room and we're saying, hey, whatever we're doing now, it's not enough. There's a reason why they won a world championship. We have to take it upon ourselves to do what we have to do for us to win one. And Akiem, I mean, that's exactly what Ed is saying right now. The time is now. Seize the moment. Let's get it done. 2019. Now.
Yeah.
You know, if I could interject something right now. Everybody up here has played the game enough years. You know, good times, bad times are different, whatever. But I'm going to tell you what. When I say what I see in this Bears defense, and there has to be pressure from the outside, okay? I get that. I understand that. But a great pass rushing team where the pressure comes from the inside.
Akiem.
Let me explain one more thing to you. You could be at the defensive end. I would love to have a Dan Hampton, Akiem Hicks, or somebody. Because what you see with quarterbacks when they escape, they always do that step up and go either left or right and sneak out. With the Bears, right now, you cannot do that. And why? Because basically this one guy takes 2, 3 people, and the quarterback can't come up the middle. He can't. So who the hell's out there waiting for him? Number 52. The kid's a man-eater. This is the guy that makes it happen, as far as I'm concerned.
I think OB's doing a radio show right now. You're awesome. You are awesome. All right. In the Lovie Smith 4-3 defense, the 3-technique defensive tackle was Tommy Harris. And Lovie, Tommy always called you the engine for the 4-3 defense. Did you live and breathe that label that he gave you, and did you play like that, to be the engine of that defense?
Yeah, I knew I was going to be an important part to the defense, especially since I've been running this defense since I've been in high school. So the cover 2, the same Tampa 2, watching Warren Sapp growing up, John Randall, and I knew that it all starts with me. If I don't make the play, I disrupt every blocking scheme I can, and that's all I did.
Well, you did more than that. 3-time Pro Bowler, outstanding member. Every time a Packer goes down, the place goes nuts. It's kind of funny. And Chris Zorich, being a local kid from Chicago, watching all this, hearing all this, you're just grinning over there because you're a Bear.
Yeah, but he comes from the same high school as Dick Butkus. So when you're Chris Zorich, you're not coming in here without the knowledge of what Bear greatness can be. And when it comes out of your same neighborhood, there's a certain little bit of angst that goes with that also.
Well, first of all, this is very exciting. I mean, the idea, and you can hear the passion that all these guys up here have. And that's what it takes to play defense. And Tom, no offense, I know you're an offensive lineman, but the idea that you have to give 110% every play is important. But then you can see it years later. I mean, we still have that same passion to go out and crush quarterbacks and crush running backs and try and crush offensive linemen. I know when I first got to the Bears, it was just an amazing experience for me because I kind of grew up in Chicago. But having the chance to practice against Tom every day really taught me how to be a better defensive lineman. So, Tom, I know you put me on my back a lot of times. I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Well, when you talk about passion, when I got here, my passion came through Hamp, through McMichael, because I admired their commitment to the game so much. And it's different when you watch them from the outside in, then you become teammates with them, and it's the same thing, with Hamp. And you see a guy that prepares to be great, ends up being a Hall of Famer, and that's committed to the game. It's like Ed O'Bradovich being around us. You could see the similarities between Ed O'Bradovich and Dan Hampton. Now I see it between Tommy and Akeem. There's a lot of similarities in defensive linemen, and like I said before, you're sitting up here because you're great football players and great ex-Bears, and I think it's the commitment to the game that all of you guys have given.
Dan, in the 46, when Buddy moved you over the center, you're pretty much impossible to deal with one-on-one. There's no way that's happening. Did that trigger something bigger and special with the unit?
Well, and obviously the design of the defense is what it is. It wasn't infallible, but it was a combination of the talents that we had. And think about this. I saw Bill Parcells last November, and I sat down and we talked down in Florida. And essentially what he was saying was, we play against, the Jets. There's really nobody we got to worry about. But when we play against the Bears, who's going to block Hampton? Who's going to block Dent? Who's going to block McMichael? Who's going to block Otis Wilson? Who's going to handle Wilbur Marshall? There were so many terrific players that it created almost not only a schematic advantage, but it almost became a race to the quarterback, a race to the running back, because you had great players feeding on each other. But you know, I'm flattered by the thought of, you know, me being on the nose, and it was an ingenious design, because if you have a player that a center can't block one-on-one, then the rest of the dominoes start to fall. You got to double him, then somebody else has got to block down on the tackle, and then next thing you know, you got free runners on the edge. So Buddy was a genius, and wherever he went, he had the #1 defense in Minnesota, and then he came here. We were the #1 defense for, I think, 5 years in a row. Then he goes to Philadelphia. He had the #1 defense. Then he went to Houston, had the #1 defense. He always realized the talents of the individual players. And again, we had an embarrassment of riches of great players, and it was a sum total of all concern. But what my dear friend Ed was saying a minute ago, the NFL forever and a day will be about blocking and tackling. And if you can have someone defeat blocks on a regular basis, you can't move the ball against them. And the 1963 championship team had Doug Atkins and Ed O'Bradovich and all these other legendary names and players. Well, it was the same way on the 85 team. We had amazing players. I think the year we went to the Super Bowl, 7 or 8 of us on defense alone played in the Pro Bowl. I mean, that's pretty good. And you and you start to see it again. We all know Khalil Mack is special. He really is. Eddie Jackson is special. Danny, the middle linebacker, Danny Trevathan, special. But it all starts up front. Eddie Goldman is getting better and better by the game, by the year. But make no mistake, this team, this defense will rise or fall on the backs of this guy right over here, number 96.
You bet.
Hey, Ham. Dan, six-time All-Pro. If you all right, nose guard, defensive tackle, defensive end, wherever you play, you're going to be All-Pro. What happens if you would have stayed at one position your whole career? Would you have been more dominant, or did your dominance come out because you could control any position?
Well, it would have been boring. That's for starters. You know, and see, when I got here, I was drafted as a defensive tackle. But Tommy Harris and Al Harris got hurt in training camp, so they moved me to end. And I like playing in. And then when Alan Page retired, they moved me inside to defensive tackle. And I played there. And then when we drafted William Perry, he couldn't play in, so I had to go back out to end. And then at the end, they moved me back inside because after 11 knee operations, I was slowed down. I couldn't turn the corner no more. So I went back inside. But, you know, it doesn't matter. I would play anywhere they wanted me to play that helped the team. And, you know, you got to be unselfish. And I got to tell you, and I hate to keep pointing at Akeem, but when Akeem is dominant and he's fresh, especially, you know, early in games, he forces the offense to do so much that Leonard Floyd and Mack, they enjoy the benefits of Akeem, destroying the interior part of the line and having to double and sag, and the backs having to step up. Well, they know they've got a one-on-one rush, and when you have a one-on-one rush, man, hey, if you're a pro, you're going to beat somebody. So at the end of the day, I was just trying to do everything I could to be wherever I needed to be to help the team.
I tell you what, you guys keep talking about Big Akeem here. He's about ready to play ball right now. He's getting fired up. I mean, it must be very flattering to hear this.
I actually got to meet Dan, it was a year ago, or a year and a half ago, and it was at Soldier Field, and it was upstairs, and I'm a big guy, right? And I walk around and I'm towering over people, and you know, it's a different feeling. But when I met him and I got to shake his hand, I realized how massive and strong of a man he really is, because at his age, he still feels strong. Like, it's a different kind of being, you know? I had the same feeling when I got to meet Kyle's dad, Mr. Long. And, you know, those guys they're just made different. You know what I mean? And so it's a huge compliment for him to say that, you know, it makes me want to put it on my back even more and just go out and destroy.
Ed, speaking of men being made different, Doug Atkins was made different.
Well, who he's speaking of is Doug Atkins. Doug played 17 years in the National Football League, most of them with the Bears. Doug was 6'8" and weighed 280. And not only that, when he went to University of Tennessee, he was on the track team. Guess what he did? He high jumped. You know how high he high jumped? 6'8". He is 6'8", and he weighed 280. He weighed 250 at the time in college. So we had the players and everything, but God, I'm going to tell you something. What's more important is ownership and the coaching staff. My God, we were so grateful to have a George Allen. How about a Buddy Ryan, folks, in '85? These people are so important. They understand the game. They know when to trick, when not to trick, when to blitz, when to overset a line, when to underset a line. And you just got to put it together. And I just want to say just one more time, I don't mean to talk in circles here, but I cannot tell you. We thought we were going to win it. We won in '63. We thought nobody could touch us in '64, '65. For Christ's sake, we're lucky we won a game after that. It all fell apart. George Allen left for the Rams, and everything fell apart. The great '85 Chicago Bears is probably, it's still in my mind, the greatest team I've ever seen play football. Now, here's the catch with that. Here's the catch. They won the world championship once. They never even got back to the Super Bowl to try to do anything. So the point I'm trying to make, Akeem, and Tommy knows, we all know up here, boy, it's 16 games. You better come in ready and everybody be ready. And I mean, I'm dead serious when I say this. I'll tell you what, we need to bring this world championship back home. And from what I saw, last year, I saw an offense struggle, come along, but they kept trying to get better and trying to improve, and by lo and behold, they came along. But they had a defense that set the tone. And they'll have a defense this year that'll set the tone, and I think the offense should be ready to go. Because, again, folks, one time, with some of the greatest players that ever played this game and coaches, and we only got there one time. So it is so important, Akeem, for you guys to realize where the hell you're at, and you've got the talent. Go out there and crush them.
Hey, Tommy, there's a lot of talk about the size and the brute strength, the defensive tackles, defensive linemen. When did you figure out that your speed off the ball was going to be the key to your success, that is going to be your strength, is going to be how quickly that you can get into the backfield, how quickly you can make an offensive lineman move or miss the block, and then how quickly did you able to cultivate that into sacks?
I knew that from high school, from jumping snaps and arm over the center and getting straight, taking handoffs from the running back, quarterback. I just knew that was my specialty. And I knew that my upside was quickness. My downside was if I get hurt, this might be it. You know, in the league, if you're 6'8" and you're 300-something pounds, and just like Dan says, Dan was moved inside and out because he had a huge frame. He could do a lot. Even if he couldn't bend the corner, they could use him down their nose. If I lost my quickness on my first step, nobody wants to pay millions of dollars to watch Tommy Harris play that's not that fast anymore. When I knew at that moment that my quickness was going to be everything that people, the Bears fans, come to see. When they drafted me here at the 14th pick, I knew that they weren't going to see any other under tackle. I'm not a 3 technique. I'm one of the only under tackles in the game that played in the game. And that's from the Tampa 2, that's the Tampa 2 system. What?
You got it.
Oh, I thought I was going to bow down to you. What you
Chris,
got to say?
Now you, because you're kind of a different body style than Tommy Harris. He had superior quickness. You had strength in the middle to take on 2 blocks. Plus, you always had the ability to earn leverage because of your height. But you also had quickness and instincts. How did you turn that into your craft throughout your college career, then extended into the Bears?
Tommy being very nice. I mean, you just said I was short. I mean, you can say it.
Well,
I was
mean,
just short.
You're not.
I don't know how I made it. I don't know. The only thing I was able to rely on was my speed and strength. I mean, I was 6'1", maybe something like that, you know. So the fact that I was able to survive for 7 years in the NFL was very beneficial because I saw people like Tom who trained constantly. What you guys might not know, and I don't know if you guys talked about this, but before Tom got to the 85 Bears, he was with the Chicago Blitz. And the same year you went from the Blitz to the Bears, I think there was like a 3 or 4 week in between that. Was there something like that?
A Saturday night game to Monday night training camp, Monday morning training camp.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, now, do you guys understand that? So literally, Tom finished with the Blitz on a Friday and was in a Bears training camp on Sunday. I mean, that's impossible. So the idea that, and I was fortunate enough because I came from Notre Dame and Tom kind of took me under his wing, but I was able to watch and see how he prepared for games. And I just really emulated what he did because I thought he was kind of the epitome of being able to be that physical type of player, which I needed to be, but I was also able, because of my size, I wasn't big as everybody else, so I had to use that combination of strength and speed, and I was very fortunate that I had a chance to make it in the league for so long.
Chris, Mike Ditka meant a lot to you, and he thought highly of you. Was he instrumental in you becoming a Chicago Bear, from your knowledge and scouting report?
Actually, it's kind of a funny story. Growing up in Chicago, I had made the Sun-Times All-State banquet, and Mike Ditka was the keynote speaker. And my mom and I traveled on the bus from our home on the south side downtown, and we were waiting in the lobby for the event to start. And Mike Singletary was out, Mike Ditka was out in the lobby, and my mom was like, hey. So my mom was a diehard Bear fan. She's like, oh my God, look, that's Mike Ditka. And I was like, yeah, I know. She's like, I'm gonna go say hi. And I was like, oh my God, Mom, are you serious? So she goes over there, and they're talking. I'm like, oh my God, my mom is talking to Mike Ditka. This is crazy. So a couple minutes later, she's like, Chris, come here. I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. So I go over there, and she introduces me like they're old pals, right? She's like, oh, Mike, and I'm like, sorry. Somehow, I don't know how I got the nerve, because I'm 18 years old. Somehow I got the nerve to say, can you please remember my name in 4 years? Well, you fast forward, and I mean, he didn't remember, but when I got the call to be drafted by the Chicago Bears, he said, Chris, how would you like to be a Chicago Bear? And I mean, I got chills right now saying this, but I was like, sir, I would love to play for the Bears. I would pay to play for the Bears. And I mean, I got a lot of crap for that because they talk about it in the media and stuff like that, but that was my passion, right? Because I grew up, my mom and I grew up with Bear fans. I mean, I watched Dan Hampton. I mean, I watched Mike Singletary. I watched William Perry. I watched these guys. These guys were part of my history. When I was a sophomore or a junior in high school, when the Bears won the Super Bowl, they came down to Daily Plaza on buses. I skipped school, took the number 6 Jeffrey bus downtown, climbed up on a street pole, and I watched them. So I remember Walter Payton being knocked over on the sideline by, I forgot what linebacker was for Green Bay. I mean, I remember all this because I remember watching as a kid. So the history of the Chicago Bears, I knew. So being drafted by my hometown team was just an amazing experience. So I really feel as though I'm living the life of every Bear fan out there. I had a chance to live that for you, and it was an amazing experience. So it was amazing.
You know what? I don't get to see Chris much, but you're kidding. You went to the parade after the Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
You were there?
Absolutely.
You froze your ass off like the rest of us, didn't you?
Hey, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember you guys
The
climbing
coldest
out
day.
of the top of the bus. I remember all that.
You know, I got to tell you, being a part of the Bears is unlike anything, you know, around the NFL. And I've talked to guys, you know, Joe Montana or Dan Marino, all these great players, but there's always some sort of deep reverence for, as Mr. O.B. said, the footing and the foundation of the NFL. And I just want to say this. It was great to see our coach here this weekend, wasn't it, Coach Ditka? I got to tell you, just like you, when I heard about him having that incident with his heart, I called him up and I said, "How you doing, Coach?" He said, "I'm okay." I said, "Well, that's good. Mongo and I are praying for you." And he said, "That's great. I need the prayers and Mongo needs the practice." So it was, but it was really good to see him. And you know what? There's so many people that mean so much in my life. You know, Coach Ditka, I don't, you know, as great as the defense was, as great as Walter was, he was a big part of us winning the championship. And again, like OB said, coaching has a lot to do with it. You know, Vic Fangio is no longer here. And now it's inherent upon the players to pick up the slack and become even better than they were a year ago. And they were damn good a year ago. But just like OB said, guess what? You get enough people that make their mind up, they want to win, boy, it's going to be hard to stop this year's team. I'm just telling you that.
What's kind of fascinating, what's fascinating about this conversation is you really get to understand that the old Bears are fans just like you. They have answered every question and brought it right back to 2019. It's the first panel that's done that here today. As a player that's on this team hearing that, you got to understand, you got a force behind you. You started in New Orleans. You went over to New England. You came to the Bears. You're here for a long time. Ryan Pace, what's he mean to you? He brought you, helped bring you to New Orleans, and he brought you here to Chicago, and basically started to build a defense around you.
Well, he really changed the trajectory of my career. You know, after being in New Orleans for 3 years, didn't pan out. They traded me to New England, and you know, at that point when you get traded, I don't know if anybody else has been traded up here, but it's not a good feeling, right? Because it's essentially somebody telling you that you're not good enough, right? And so when I went to New England, I played there. I finished out that season. I became a free agent, and you're looking for your next home. You're looking for where you're going to play. And I remember at the time there were 3 teams that were interested. One was New York, one was Detroit. Nobody likes Detroit, right? One was Detroit, and the other was Chicago Bears. And my mom, being from the south side of Chicago, you know, she was excited when she first heard it, right? And they in here. And so at that point, I'm figuring out what is going to be the best fit and what's going to be the best home and where do I have the best chance, you know, to build and to be a part of a team that I want to be a part of, and I want to build a winning championship caliber team. And Pace called me and we started talking, and I said to myself, what better place is there to be than with somebody that originally helped get you drafted and wants you to be on their team again? And then yeah. And so at that point, it came to seeing what the foundation was like with our team, right? And Coach Fox was here at the time. We had some really good players, Pernell McPhee, Willie Young, guys that could rush the passer. And I just really felt like this could be a home for me. And it's worked out so far, right?
Hey, Tommy Harris, what was your first, the first time the Bears contacted you, started showing interest in your ability? what was the scout or the coach or the personnel person that said, Tommy Harris, we have our sights set on you. We have interest in you coming to play here. We've seen all these stories of everybody being contacted. There's a great story that Clyde Emmerich tells me that Jim Finks told him to go down and look at the talents of Dan Hampton. Who contacted you for the first time and to give you an indication that you're going to be a Bear?
I didn't know. I thought I was going to Tampa. So I kept dropping in the draft and dropping. I was either going to go number 5 to Washington Redskins. They took Sean Taylor. Then they said at the least he'll go to Atlanta at 8. And they took D'Angelo Hall, I believe. And then I was supposed to fall at Houston at 10, but they took the other defensive back out of North Carolina. And the Bears just came out of nowhere, and but there had been a little guy that kept following me somewhere. He's at Kansas City now, I think. He's a scout.
Chris Ballard.
Chris Ballard. Chris Ballard kept popping up.
He's the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, and he's one hell of a scout.
Right on. But you know what I've been through, so I'm just now checking back into football. You see what I'm saying? I've been out of football.
No, I
got you. Chris Ballard was the guy that found me. I would see him in Houston at the facility I was training in, but I didn't know 2 and 2 until I got to Chicago and saw him in the facility. Like, oh man, you've been. So when Lovey hit me and said, "Would you like to be a Bear?" I said, "Man, I can't believe I knew he had just came from that Tampa 2 system into Chicago, and I was ready to play in Michael Jordan City."
Tommy, what's that man mean to you? What's that man mean to you?
Everything, man. That man taught me a lot, man. He taught me that it would say that there are many professional football players, but only few are professional. And he was the first man to ever proposition me, would you be one of the few? And fortunately, I had just started learning how to be a professional at the end of my career. And that man really took time to teach me more off the field than the game of football, man. He means everything to me.
Hamp. Hey, Big Dan. Hampton. Clyde Emmerich tells me a story that one of the greatest talent evaluators of all time, Jim Finks, he says, hey, I want you to go down and take a look at this guy, Dan Hampton. And he said, Clyde looked at you for a couple minutes and came back and said, Jim, this guy's going to be not only a great player, he's going to be a Hall of Fame player. Not only to have Jim Finks understand what the ability that he thought you have, but then you get the evaluation of a guy like Clyde on immediate recognition about what you could be. That's got to be impressive for you, you know, being a young upcoming football player from Arkansas.
Well, again, I owe so much to so many people. Clyde Emmerich, and it's kind of an interesting story in a sense. When I was in college, I was skinny and kind of weak, and I got on a weight program, and I started doing these power cleans. And a power clean is not easy to do. A lot of people go in there and do curls for the girls and all that. But power clean, it's real work. So you take the weight off the ground, and you explode up, and anyway, it's essentially a football move. When you're in your stance and you fire into somebody, that's the basis of your explosion. Anyway, I was extraordinarily good at it, and so this is way before they had the big combine and all that. And the Bears had me fly in so they could kind of give me a look over and a physical. Anyway, they had me go in the weight room, and Clyde Emmerich, who I saw last night, still looks great. How old is he, 83?
86.
86. Clyde Emmerich was the first man on the planet Earth under 200 pounds to clean and jerk 400. Now think about that. But he was a special guy. But anyway, I was in the weight room, and there was this offensive lineman, it doesn't matter who it was, but he was walking around the power clean, kind of psyching himself up, and he had 225 pounds on the bar, and he'd psych himself up, and then, and he'd do it one time and put it on the ground. And then he'd walk around and psych himself up. And I said, oh, you guys like to do power cleans? And Clyde goes, oh, yeah. You know, we think it's a very important lift. And I said, oh, really? Well, I love doing power cleans, and I'm pretty good at it. He goes, oh, really? I said, let me show you. And he goes, no. don't get hurt, you know. I said, no, let me show you. And I went out, I had street clothes on and like loafers. Anyway, I went over and did it 10 times and put it back down on the ground, and his eyes popped out of his socket. And he could tell that, you know, when you train and you have a certain explosive ability, I mean, that's what football is. You know, it's technique, tenacity, and then you got to have certain talents. And Clyde Emmerich, from that day forward, has always been like a huge, you know, proponent for me as far as not only the weightlifting, but I'll tell you this, and I don't know, Akeem, answer this question. Can your starting defensive line all do 360 pounds power clean?
I would say everybody can.
Everybody
can get over 300.
What's that?
I said everybody can get over 300. I don't know about 360.
Everybody on the starting defensive line in the Super Bowl, way the hell back 33 years ago, whatever, we could all do 360 pounds. Now that's pretty good for a long time ago.
That's very good.
Richard, Steve McMichael, Fridge, yeah, they could all do it.
When Dan played in his era, Bears ranked #1 in fewest rushing yards, fewest rushing touchdowns, total yards, points, and most sacks. Aside from the trophy, the fact that it was dominant, is that important to you? That you were at the center of that? All that dominance of that Bears defense during the era that you played, top of the heap.
Well, yeah, and again, like I said, I owe so much to so many. To play next to Richard Dent, who went into the Hall of Fame in 2011, to play beside Steve McMichael, who played like a Hall of Famer. Steve was an amazing player. Mike Singletary played right behind me for some 11 years. On the outside, Otis, Wilbur, Gary Fensick. You have no idea how much fun it was. I heard Gary and Doug Plank up here talking earlier. You have no idea how much fun it was to be on the field watching those guys knock people out for year after year after year. And we weren't very good, but by God, nobody wanted to play against them. I'm telling you, they would drop you. But, you know, it's just like what OB told me years and years ago. There's a reason why the Chicago Bears were called the Monsters of the Midway, because they played the game the right way.
Ed, you guys allowed 10 points a game in '63. That's it. Is it underrated, that defense in Bears history?
Well, I think, as a matter of fact, I think there was a special somewhere last few years about, or there's an article written in newspapers, The Forgotten Champions in 1963. I don't know, but the 63 team compared to the 85 team, I mean, there is no comparison. They were revered, they were, I mean, loved to the max and well respected, et cetera, et cetera. Back when I played, it was everything was a battle. Everything was a fight. The games were fights. I mean, we're playing the Detroit Lions, and we're playing up in Detroit. It's the last game of the year. We're playing here in the 2 games. We were playing here in Wrigley Field. Detroit had to beat us to get into the conference championship, okay? We won the game 3-0. They went on every 4th down. As a matter of fact, Clay Ford came down and told them they beat us. They're all getting brand new Fords. I thought that was against the rules, but apparently it wasn't. But anyways, 3-0. And then I think in the year of '66, there was a kid by the name of Chuck Hughes. He's a receiver for Detroit Lions. And I just want to tell you again, the difference in the decades and the rules and how it was played. Chuck Hughes, unbeknownst to us until we saw the films the following week, Benny McRae caught him coming over the middle, and Benny hit that kid. It was like a cluster bomb going off, and he went flying up in the air and went down, and I don't know how the hell that kid got up, but he got up. But listen to this, folks. So it was a pass, so I turn around, and we're walking back, and he's walking back, and he's about from me to you away, and he goes like this, boop, boom. What it was, we were winning by 4 points. A field goal meant nothing, and they had the ball and they were moving on us. So they had no timeouts left, so we thought, aha, here this guy's faking it. Get that bum off the field, you know, we're screaming everything. He's faking it, he's faking it. And then Butkus goes down and looks, he gets on one knee, and he starts waving to the Detroit bench. Come on out here. The guy died right on the field. 26 years old, hit 3 kids. Died on that field in 1966. You want to talk about the word realization? Scared the living hell out of me and everybody else. That's how tough it was. You'd have died on the damn field, and unfortunately, it did happen.
That's a tough one to overcome right there. That's a tough one to go through. I remember seeing a picture of Dick standing over, you know, Chuck Hughes, but that's a part of football history right there. It definitely did happen. It's always everyone's fear, obviously. Well, that's a tough one to follow up right there. That's tough business right there. But
I didn't mean to go there, but
you all had to overcome something. You ought to have overcome your own personal journeys, Tom, you included, from a physical point of view, the mental point of view. If you were overlooked, you came from Sacramento City College and a college in Canada to get to be a Pro Bowler in the National Football League. Tommy overcoming injuries. OB, you had to play in Canada first, right?
What?
You played in Canada.
Yeah, first year in Canada.
Yeah. Dan, 12 surgeries. Chris Zorich, humble beginnings. Tom Thayer trying to break in on one of the best offensive lines in NFL history. Do you all appreciate how hard it was to get to where you are and what you became as football players? We'll start with Tom.
You know, I'm like Chris. I grew up in the Chicagoland area. I've been a Bears fan my whole life. And I grew up watching the guys. I was in awe of Walter Payton. I told you I played with a guy in the USFL that came here for a day, and he warned me about Dan Hampton and Steve McMichael. And so I came here. I was intimidated before I ever got here, but I was in awe when I looked across the huddle at Walter Payton, almost as a fan. So it was, you never have a bigger goal in your life than to be a member of the Chicago Bears. And it was a great opportunity, and it's been life-changing. So just the whole, you know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself for accomplishment. And that's, I think every one of these guys, that they kind of put in their mind that they want to play professional football at some time in their life. There's a lot you have to overcome in order to even give yourself that opportunity. What about you, big man?
I had the fortunate opportunity to attend the University of Notre Dame, and all right, go Irish. And much like the tradition that we have at Notre Dame, the Chicago Bears is the same way. So I didn't have a chance to start the whole time I was here, but being a part of the Chicago Bears organization for the time that I was is a very important part of my life. My experience at Notre Dame was great, but being part of one of the organizations that started the NFL is something that I will always cherish. And then you're talking about a kid who grew up 20 minutes from Soldier Field. That's the icing on the cake. So, I mean, after my football career was over, I could have died then and just been a very, very happy man. So the idea that I played my butt off, I gave 110% for an organization that I grew up admiring, was really just a dream come true. And again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but for all the fans out there, I played for you guys, and I felt as though I was one of you. So thank you very much.
You know, again, and I'm sure Tommy, Chris, Akeem would all say the same thing, which is, you know, yeah, it's professional football. We get paid to do it, but everybody's got setbacks. Everybody has challenges. It's how you deal with them. And I got to tell you, I'm the luckiest guy you'll ever see. To play 12 years for this franchise with the guys I play. William Perry, you have no idea how much fun it was in the locker room, in the meeting room with Fridge. He's a scream. He's a scream. And I mean, the friends, Steve McMichael and I have been like that for 40 years. To play next to Richard, Otis, all these, Gary Fencing, all these great guys, all these great players. But think about this, folks. I got to play for Buddy Ryan. I got to play for Mike Ditka. I get to do radio with my legendary hero, Ed O'Bradovich, on WGN. But here's the best one. I played 9 years with Walter Payton. Top that. Top that one.
Well, being kind of a guy that was, well, born and raised in Hillside, Illinois, went to Proviso High School in Maywood, University of Illinois, and, you know, it's like one of those dreams come true. And when you start out playing, and if you excel at basketball, football, whatever it is, then your dream is always to be the best. You want to be the world champion, okay? You want to win the conference. You want to be the state. You want to win the national title in football and basketball, whatever it might be. Well, when it comes to football, it was always about the next big avenue. You know, can I travel it? Can I make it? Can I get there? And I did, and I made it to Chicago Bears, which I dreamed. That was a dream of all dreams for me to play the game, number one, and number two, to play in Chicago, and number three, to win a damn world championship. I have my entire family's here, my friends are here, and it's been one hell of a ride. And I'll tell you what, I don't look back at anything and say, no, I think I should have, I shouldn't have, or whatever. It was what it was. I did what I did. And every time I can tell you this, every time I went out on that football field, I thought we were going to win the game. Every time. I don't care if we'd be like 0-4 and we're playing the New England Patriots in New England. I had the mindset that we could whip their butt. I really did. And I think I could speak for all of us up here. They have that same feeling. So again, to be here, to play for George Halas, who started this league, the footing foundation of this whole damn thing, and to win a world championship with it and play with the guys that I played with, I thank God for that. Thank you.
I think we should have went the other way. Like the older guy should have went last. But I just want to say,
wear my jersey up here.
Man, that's what Big Bro said there. I just want to say thank you, first off, for being up here on this panel, and especially being retired and life happens, and it's refreshing. I want to thank the Bears for allowing us to come back and share this week for myself personally. And I just want to say, I don't take it for granted. Man, you're one of the greatest defensive tackles, and I told you I enjoy watching you. I said him.
You bet.
Him and Khalil Mack, I say, you guys got me back at home. I get a bag of chips or popcorn, I kick my feet up, and I watch you two work together. I don't know what else goes on. I watch you two work together, and it's the most beautiful work of art when you have a tag team in there like that. But the reason why we love football so much is because it endures, right? It teaches you how to constantly keep going after something, and it's the overcomer sport. Just like we all talk, we've been through it, and it's to encourage those that go work a 9 to 5 all day and have something to come home to, and to cheer for a team, to get you out of bed, and to meet new friends at a bar, and to meet new people, and the connection. It's the beauty of this sport is why I played it and why I love the city of Chicago. That it constantly brings people together. And when you win, man, it takes all the crap that's going on in your life, the thing, when a team wins, man, it takes a load off of people in their day-to-day lives. So I just tell you, know that you're putting entertainment, you're inspiring people that are working their butts off all day, laboring somewhere, and when you put your helmet on, know that the city is behind you. And I thank y'all. Love y'all, Chicago.
Maybe they should have started the other way.
So I got to follow up all these guys. First thing I want to say.
Hey, Akeem, we didn't put too much pressure on you, did we?
Not at all, not at all. What I'll say is this, first of all, is that it's an absolute honor to be up here with you guys. Yeah, please. I fell in love with the game of football at 14 years old, and I remember I used to just sit in the front room, and I'd be watching NFL films, and I'd be watching replays of the games that played on that Sunday, and it just took a hold of me, and I got to watch all of you guys do what I do now as the best in the world, and it's an honor to follow in your footsteps and to be able to put this Bears jersey on and represent us. And I also got to say, I accept all of your challenges. For this defense that we have here right now, you weren't lying for a second. We have some of the most ferocious, most talented, most aggressive, high-spirited, fun-loving, love the game of football guys that I've ever been around. And for us not to take advantage of this moment that we have in front of us right now, we would be doing ourselves, you gentlemen up here, and this city a disservice. So we're going to take care of business.
I think the battery went out. I mean, the emotion in this room right now, it's palpable. It's a lot of fun. I know we had fan questions. We're not going to get a whole lot of time, but while Akeem's got the floor, you ran for a touchdown last season. Joe in Chicago wants to know if you're going to catch one this year.
Yeah. So I know you guys saw the game, right? It was 4th and 1 on the 1-yard line, right? Now, we had practiced that play for, I don't know, 8-9 weeks. But for some reason in my mind, I never thought it was really coming. And it came. And it was 4th and 1, and we're in New York. And they actually gave me the ball. Who does that? I don't know. I didn't really expect it. I know I'm talking to all defensive linemen up here. We never expect to get the ball, right? We're hitters. An old coach of mine told me you're either going to be the hitter or the hitty on every play. And I'm used to doing the hitting. So it was fun, and don't put that pressure on me.
Freezer left. Last thing, and people had some similar questions, but Dan, you appreciate that Matt Nagy takes in the history of this franchise at heart. First play he runs, T formation. Freezer left, an ode to Refrigerator Perry. He's got Papa Bear House plays. He's got all these great plays that a little ode to history. He gets it, doesn't he?
Well, the first and foremost thing is, you're talking about Matt Nagy. Thank God John Fox's ass is out of town. That's all I can tell you. Thank God. Thank God. But you know what?
Hold it. Excuse me a second.
I can't let it go. I'm sorry.
We're out of time.
I can't let it go.
We're out of time.
Hold the phone. I
can't
kind
let
of
it go.
denote that you don't like facts? Or never did?
We'll talk backstage.
Yeah, talk backstage.
But let me tell you folks something. This man right here has seen a lot of Chicago Bear football in his years. And we talked about it on the post game last year. He would look me dead in the eye and he said, and there's no question in my mind, if you guys find a way to stop the Eagles, that you could have went and won the Super Bowl. So those are the setbacks that now you realize you have to be better in all facets. But Ed O'Bradovich told me on a weekly basis, there's something special about this team. And Matt Nagy, and you can give Ryan Pace an awful lot of credit too. Vic Fangio, he was a terrific, coordinator. But at the end of the day, you can feel it, we can feel it. The main thing is they find a way to believe it and bring it home because they know it means everything to us. Now get this. It has been 34 years since we won the damn Super Bowl. The last time I checked, 34 was a pretty good number around the Chicago Bears. Yeah! See you in Miami!
Give him a hand, everybody.
I thought we were doing D-line greats. They told me to be here at 4:30. I thought we were doing D-line greats. What's up? You all right? How you doing? Yeah. They told me we was doing D-line greats.
Yeah, you were supposed to be here.
They told me we was doing D-line greats. Am I in this picture? If you want to be. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not in that photo.
of your 1985 Super Bowl champion Chicago Bears. Richard Dent, Willie Gault, Jay Hilgenberg, Otis Wilson, Emery Moorhead, William Perry, Tom Thayer, and host Jeff Joniak.
Right, musical chairs.
Who's playing the music?
Welcome, one and all. This is our last legacy of the day. We all must agree it's been quite a ride so far up until right now. Wow. And now some of the best storytellers of all time on stage right here and now. Otis can't wait. Tom, this is your guy. These are your guys. You take the lead, my friend. Greatest team in NFL history.
I thought you said me take over, and you started talking and get in the mic. You know, I think we got to go to the elder statesman here of this group. We got Emery Moorhead. I always say Emery Moorhead's a wide receiver that ate himself into a tight end.
And a longer career. Hey, it's great to see you all. This place is packed, and we love it. We love you guys.
It's unreal. Great.
Big O, what's your feeling of the weekend, the support of the Bears fans, your Bear career, a little bit of everything?
It is always a pleasure to see the Bear fans come out. I mean, coming down off the Kennedy and seeing all the fans, but most of all, to sit here and see these guys. I love the point of my life when I get to be around them. I mean, I have so much love for them and so many great stories, and it's just an honor and a pleasure to be here.
You know, we just sat up here and Dan Hampton was talking about how much he enjoyed being a teammate of William Perry, a guy that came in and lit up our locker room every day. Fridge, you got an opportunity to come back to Chicago about some of the fun you had with the Bears, both as a defensive tackle and a running back of your time. That had to be a lot of fun for you to be able to join the Bears at such an important time.
Go ahead, Doc.
I was just saying, just some of the enjoyment you've had here in Chicago, some of the fun from being a defensive tackle all the way to one of the first big man running backs, because last year Matt Nagy had a play where he gave Akeem Hicks the ball for a touchdown, and he called it the freezer in salute to the Fridge, William Perry.
You know, it was great. It was great and everything, and you know, I couldn't say any more. Everything was wonderful, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun. You know, doing it for the people and enjoying myself.
There you go, catching the ball.
Willie, the instigator of the Super Bowl shuffle.
Yes.
Kind of a gutsy move to do it on the plane after we lost our first game that season. Did you ever think about taking a step back and maybe giving that loss a little bit of time to warm up, or were you full speed ready to go?
No, I was pretty confident. You know, I think the loss for us sort of put us in perspective. I think we knew we were good, but we knew if we didn't play together as a team that we wouldn't win. So that day was pretty trying because everything was set up to do the video, and I had the dubious task of trying to convince these guys after we had lost in Miami to come the next day and shoot the video. So I talked to Mike Singletary, and Mike said, okay, we've already committed. Let's do it as a team. Let's let this be a team building for us. So we decided to get together as a team at that video and make sure that we committed to each other that we were going to go out and play our best. And that's what happened, and of course the rest is history.
Richard, when you look back on it all, not surprised where you are, but are you impressed with everything you've been able to accomplish and achieve since you weren't the highest draft choice? You were able to do what Buddy Ryan wanted to do, wanted to get out of you. You know, you had to play the run, you had to rush the passer, and then you sit here today as a Hall of Famer. I think all the fans are equally as impressed as we are.
Well, you know,
on the road to the pro standards coming out of Tennessee State, most people, you know, guys that get drafted, they worried about where they're getting drafted, what they're doing. You know, the point of it is that when you get into the league and you get drafted, you're getting more money than what you had when you walked in the door. So there's no reason to be upset about where you're being placed. You're getting an opportunity, you're getting a platform to show what you're worth and show what you could do. And, you know, after coming to Chicago Bears and, you know, seeing some of the guys, they didn't know anything, they didn't know much about me. I didn't know much about them, but we seemed to find ourselves. And I didn't understand why I wasn't playing, but, you know, Buddy had a problem, and I had a problem with not taking the trap on well. So when we move a lot, which is, I really appreciate it. So when Fridge is over the center, I got to, you know, spill the play with my right shoulder. So, but when he's over the guard, I can squeeze it. So I had a minute trying to get that together, and found I got that together. Then, you know, I was in the starting lineup. So, you know, but I could understand. I did not understand, but I did later, and eventually, you know, as a kid, you know, you dream to do some things, and every dream that I imagined as a kid to play football in the National Football League, everything that has happened, except the Hall of Fame, which I didn't know anything about the Hall of Fame during that time, but I seen myself do what was done in my career. You know, if you can dream it, that means God is blessing you. You have to, once you pray about it, you have to be about it. And with the players that I had around me, you know, it was all about the opportunity. You know, I don't miss the game, I miss the guys that I played with.
Like all of us. Jay, you kind of had a unique journey here. You're an undrafted free agent out of Iowa. You became a 7-time Pro Bowler, but you were raised in the National Football League. Your Uncle Wally played 16 years in the NFL. Your dad played football. Your younger brother, Joel, played 10 or 11 years with the New Orleans Saints. Was it Bill McGrain that kind of got you attached to the Bears and gave you your opportunity?
Yes, it was really, you know, the Bears organization, and Jim Finks was with Chicago at the time, the general manager. He used to be with the Minnesota Vikings, and as you said, my uncle played with the Vikings, and when Finks knew Wally Hilgenberg, my uncle played up there, and as you said, I met Buddy Ryan when I was a sophomore in high school. As he was Wally's position coach, going up to the Minnesota practices and camps. So I knew Buddy then, and I went to Super Bowl IX, and I remember my uncle Wally was a roommate of Alan Page, and I went up to the room to talk to Wally, and he wasn't there, but I sat in the room, and Alan talked to me for like 20 minutes. I was my sophomore in high school about, you know, the sports I was into, and he was just really, he took 20 minutes of his time to really spend time with me. And then my rookie year, you know, being undrafted, coming to Chicago and trying to make a name for myself, there I am practicing against Alan Page every day for that first season, and he really worked with me that year. So, you know, I didn't come into the NFL the way I thought I was going to arrive, but I was so lucky. You know, I get Jim Finks and Bill McGrain, you know, Hall of Fame, Jim Finks. I come to the Chicago Bears there. I'm coached by Mike Ditka, who's a Hall of Fame offensive line coach, Hall of Fame Dick Stanfill. I practiced against, you know, Dan Hampton, Hall of Fame, Mike Singletary, Hall of Fame. Steve McMichael should be in the Hall of Fame. It's just, it goes on and on. And then when Fridge came to the Chicago Bears, he really changed what it meant to go out there and practice that day, because his arrival, because I knew when they drafted Fridge, and I saw his highlights in college and what I was going to have to go through that training camp. I mean, I got myself ready in '85 to play. Not to the opponents, because I knew Fridge was coming to Chicago. And boy, I was happy that the Fridge was the Chicago Bears, and I didn't have to play him on any other team.
But, you know, we all hear from the defensive players how difficult it was for them to earn the respect of Buddy Ryan. So you meet Buddy Ryan as a kid. How did he treat you when he came to Chicago?
Oh, it was like the was like yesterday. I remember the very first day of practice out in the field. We had Cal's, and we broke down to Cal's. And being the rookie free agent, I couldn't even go with the defense the first period of practice. I couldn't go with the offense. I had to go with the defense and sit there and snap the ball for you guys coming off the ball. And I go running up to the defensive drill, and there's Buddy standing there. He looks at me and he goes, "Where's the ball, Rook?" And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, "Hey, every good center has a football in his hand." He goes, "You never know when a game's going to break out." And right that day, from that day forward, my whole career, I never stepped on the football field without a football in my hand. I always had a football in my hand.
Jay, you also have talked about how quick William was off the ball.
Yeah, that's something that, Tom and I both really studied a lot of game tape. I first learned that from Noah Jackson. My rookie year in the NFL, we used to have the film projector, and the rookies had to carry the projector on the flights and travel and carry it and bring it to the meetings and set it up. And Noah always liked watching tape before he went to bed at night. So I'd go up there to get the projector, and I'd sit down and watch tape with him, and Noah really taught me what he was looking at. He would get up there and start diagram, you got to be like a boxer. You got to snap, and you got to be able to hit the guy and not give him all your body weight. So he taught me. I learned a lot from Noah, with that projector there. And I just think a guy like that should be recognized an awful lot.
Jim Finks did a wonderful job. The '83 draft, I can't imagine there's anyone better in NFL history. I mean, look what it gave you guys. Okay, Otis was already here. Emery, you were here. Walter was here. McMahon was here. Hamp was here. But then you bring in that '83 class with Jimbo and Willie and Tom and Richard as a later round pick.
It's a great class.
Dewerson.
I
mean,
Bortz.
I mean, keep coming.
Mike Richardson.
L.A. How much respect for Jim Finks?
Well, I would say there's a lot of respect for him because I would say he probably orchestrated along with the scouting staff, and putting the pieces to the puzzle together. I mean, to understand what you need and to go out there and get what you need, he was, no doubt about it, an important part of that.
My experience with Jim Finks was a little different. I came to the Bears. Denver had cut me. The Bears picked me up, and I went through the preseason, and then the very last cut, Noah Jackson was holding out, and they signed Noah, and they cut me at the game before the game. And anyway, I finished that year. Then the next year, they fired Neil Armstrong, and they hired Mike Ditka, and they brought Mike in, and they moved me to tight end. And so I had a great year. I was playing at 215 pounds at tight end. So it was easily getting away from all the linebackers and the safeties. And with play action to Walter, it was just unbelievably easy. But anyway, after the season, in fact, Virginia might remember this, they said they were going to sign me to a new contract. And Ed said, "We're going to sign you to a new contract," for having a great year. So I come in, I sign the contract, and Jim Finks is also there. And he goes, "Emery," he says, "come back here, I want to talk to you." And he says, "Emery," he says, he lived in Winnetka, and he had a maid by the name of Mrs. Robinson that went to the same church I did in Evanston. And he said, "Emery," he said, "Miss Robinson been telling me for 5 years to sign you." And he says, "Now we're finally going to sign you to a nice contract." So I got to the Bears through Miss Robinson pestering him every year, "Sign Emery, sign Emery, sign Emery." And that's how I ended up getting a nice contract out of the Bears.
All roads lead to the NFL, Emery, right?
Yeah.
All roads lead to the NFL.
Yeah.
William, when it was all going on your rookie year, you just loved playing. Did you realize what was going on, becoming a national and international sensation because of your popularity? Did you recognize it, or were you just all about ball?
Oh, well, when I came in, Bears drafted me, and I'm playing defensive tackle. I didn't ever think I was going to be a fullback, lining up in the backfield. And he surprised me, Cause when San Francisco did it against them, then he got me and stuck me in the backfield so he can rub it in his face and everything. So, you know, it was great, and I loved it, and it was fun.
Yeah, I'll tell you another story about Fridge. That year, we were after the Super Bowl. Jeff Fisher, Steve Fuller, and I go on a ski trip with a bunch of fans over to Switzerland. And so we go over there, and of course we're the big guys, and everybody's like, who are these guys? Who are these guys? And I say, no, I play football. And I said, Chicago Bears. They still didn't know. And I said, Walter Payton, and they didn't know. And I said, the Fridge. They went, oh, yeah, we know the Bears. We know the Bears.
It's kind of reason, when this event, so there's people here from all 50 states and 7 different countries. And when you have a personality like Fridge and Walter Payton, these guys, that's why the popularity outreaches just the Chicagoland, Illinois area, and it is a worldwide phenomenon.
I actually, when I first saw Fridge, I was watching TV, and he had this short shirt on when didn't have much of a gut, but I watched how he was, working the field from sideline to sideline, and I said, this guy can move. And finally, then he's ended up in Chicago, and, he was running the ball for a while, but once he got in the starting lineup, it was tough to block him one-on-one. So I said, what a great guy is right beside me. I'm beside him. I said, so what we're going to do, we're going to dictate on this side. We're going to tell people what they can do and what they can't do, right? So William, I'll tell Williams and William, I'm not going to stick my nose in your business. And you don't stick your nose in my business. But what I need you to do is when the ball comes my way, run to the numbers. If the ball go past the numbers, stop running. I got it, right? And if the ball goes inside, I'm not going to rush in there because I got him in there, I got Steve in there, I got Singleton, all these different people. So, I was taught a lot about playing football in a way of take 2 things away and play the other. You see, now you're dictating about what's going to take place. So we knew nobody's going to run the ball on our side. We knew we was going to make the ball go the other way, and it was all about when they try to trick you and reverse and back. But when you can play with people like that working hand in hand and really controlling the whole game where I can have fun because I know what you can do and I know what you can't do. Now, you may try it, but, I figure if you give me the ball enough, we're going to get a turnover, we're going to do some things. But I appreciate this man so much playing beside him, and that's why, a guy like Otis Wilson also should be in the Hall of Fame. Also, Wilbert Marshall. I play with a lot of guys, and Jimbo Covert, and Jay Hilgenberg. We had so many great ball players, and it was just so much fun. We didn't realize how much fun that we was having. But, that's what you miss, the guys that you play with.
And then to add on to that, it was a great thing, and knowing Buddy Ryan's system, Buddy had an attack system. And like Richard was saying, we knew if we took care of a certain area. See, I'm all the way on the other side with Dan Hampton.
We're sending them your way.
Exactly.
Right.
And I was trying to send him his way. And I said, nothing's going to come out from the numbers to the sideline. I got that covered. I'm pushing everything back in. And then Hampton's over there, Fridge in the middle. And him and Singleton say, where you going to go? There's nowhere to go. So it was just so much. I would always say, and we would always say, I'm not going to let Hampton down. Hampton said, I'm not going to let Fridge down. We knew what Richard was going to do. See, that we called Richard the Colonel. And the Colonel meaning like Kentucky Fried Chicken. At one time, they only sold chicken. We knew what he was going to do.
Get upfield,
so we
baby.
said we're going to let him handle that.
We're going to get upfield without a doubt.
Exactly. Stay upfield.
But what we really appreciate about Buddy and to me is as a player, like, people talk about Peyton Manning making calls on the line of scrimmage, how smart and great he is. Well, hell, those other guys got to be smart too, right? Because if they don't know what's going on, ain't nothing going on. So in defense, we did the same thing. You know, I look at Buddy, he pat his hand. I know that's automatic front control, you know. So we didn't never get a call until third down. But on first and second down, we played what we see. If you get in an I formation, we did something. If you did a red, whatever formation. So the point of it is, what I appreciate, he gave us the game. You know, some coaches don't want to give the game. Some coaches like to get off on what they do. But if you don't have players, you're just getting off yourself. You're not getting anywhere. So the point of you have to make the players be responsible for their action. If you make them be responsible, they're going to play harder. They're going to do more. You know, but if you're just making a call, make the call. I would say, hey, coach, I got 2 on me. Just send 1. Just try to get us one-on-one. Not send someone free, because now we're getting everybody going. And so it's a math game, football is. You got 5 linemen that's going to have to block 4. Or you're going to have 6 going to have to block 4. As sooner or later, it's going to work out in your way.
You know, Emery, Willie, and Jay.
This is funny, though.
I was gonna say,
this is funny. Oh, this is funny. This is indicative of our team. So many of you guys may not know, our offense was ranked number 2 in the league that year, right? But we had such an amazing defense, was ranked number 1 in the country, the best defense ever. But our offense, we would just sit back and do our thing, and we give them the ball. But we were ranked number 2 in the entire league, but people don't know that because we had such a great defense.
Well, if they were fortunate, they always got to play fresh because we held onto the ball for
Hey,
36 minutes.
they only had to play 20 minutes.
We had Walter Payton, we had Jim McMahon, we had, all these guys.
All right, Richard, you only had to play 20 minutes a game because we controlled the ball the whole
Now
game.
you take the special teams out of it, they was really only playing 16 minutes a game.
Right. I mean, hey, the offense led the NFL in first downs. The offense led the NFL in scoring that year. I mean, there's a ton of things.
Rushing the football.
Ball control.
Ball control.
Ball control. When you out and do anything, we come off and say, hey, guys.
We controlled the ball. We led the NFL in first downs. I mean, see, the only problem is that, when you get tired as an offensive player, you can't sit there on the sideline and cheer for the other team's offense because, you want to rest on the bench. That's why defense can verbally be on the offense because you guys get tired and you're getting mad at us because we're going 3 and out. We can't get mad at you guys for going 3 and out.
Well,
while they was going 3 and out, we would tell them, look,
you know, the funny thing that he didn't mention, they always got the ball on the 35-yard line.
Right.
True.
The team never came past the 50 on
Right.
us, and we was always 3 and out. You
we
should
love
be
you
number
guys.
1.
We love you
That's
guys.
right.
You should be number 1.
We love you guys. I mean,
No, hey, hold it. You're right.
so,
You're right. Should be number 1. And we used to say, just to piss them off, we was like, hey, guys, just hold them. Get a first down, hold them, we'll come back, we'll score,
You know
okay?
what? This seems like the same stories that we just had from the 63 group. The 63 group said, our defense was so great, we just asked for the just hold them.
We just looked at 9 points. We said, we can't give anybody no more than 9 points. Because we knew that we could turn over, we could score, or we get a turnover, get a field goal. So we know if we got 10 points, it's going to be a problem,
It was such a pleasure just to watch those guys. I mean, as I sat down and watched our defense play the other team, I was at awe. I mean, it was like amazing to see what they did, how they performed, the professionalism they had, and also the excitement they had. I mean, these guys were excited to hit people. You can't be that excited today because, you can't do as much as we did back then. But it was really amazing.
Willie, see what you started? And you know what? See what you started? You see what you started? I was thinking it too. I was thinking it too. Because they will talk all day about that defense.
Yeah. What they need, what we're missing on this panel is Mike Richardson to do some chirping at this defensive line. Because they always complain that y'all didn't get enough pressure for him.
Exactly. He got them touchdowns and interceptions.
No, our defense was great. And one thing, Buddy was the guy, until you made a play, he didn't even talk to you. He'd call you by your number, whatever. And he would come by to the offense right before the game. He'd say, you get me 10 points. He says, I'll let the dogs loose. And he said, we'll crush them.
No, Buddy was Buddy. I mean, what I enjoyed about Buddy on Mondays after the game, or I can remember the championship game, and the Giants flipped the tight end and started putting him on my side, and Buddy would always say, get a hit on the tight end, get a hit on him. I said, okay, I'm going to get a hit on him. It's a playoff game. So I get a hit on him, and now Hampton upfield, my tackle upfield, I can go back outside. I'm looking at the quarterback down the middle. I'm saying, I see ball, get ball. Do I need to go back this? So Buddy's like, what's going on out there, Coach? We seeing ball, we get ball. We'll talk about it on Monday, right? Like, I don't know what y'all doing, but hey, Coach, we see that ball. I see it. I'm going to get it. I'm not going to go all the way back outside while I'm inside pushing the tight end down, but I enjoyed his meetings, in the meetings and what he was calling people, with bad plays, good plays, but we always played as a team on defense to beat the other positions. So the defensive line would have the best grades, the linebackers, so on, with the corners and safeties. And then we started having individual play. So, I'm a small guy from a small school. Here I got, Tom over there went to Notre Dame, and so I may have a guy at Notre Dame from some big school, and they say, oh, you got a post. No, I ain't got a post. That guy, he come from a big school. I'm a small school guy. So it was fun to have this camaraderie that we used to have on Mondays. It was always something to look forward to on Monday.
You know what? We never look forward to Mondays.
Right, exactly.
Because you got Ditka running the projector, and I always say you could tell how well you played by the sweat rings underneath your armpits, because it was never pleasant, and you watched every play probably 5 or 6 times.
Right. Sundays really, I mean, you go through the week of practice as an offensive lineman, against this defense. That was a tough week. The game Sunday, that was kind of a break. Monday was actually the worst day. He was going over the review with Mike Ditka running that projector. I mean, he critiqued us heavily. It was always like the game, after the game, you'd have a nice win, and you want to come in and see some nice plays, the replay, and coach would come in there and go, all right, guys, we're in a hurry today. We can't tell you good job. We're just going to go correct what's wrong in this film.
Right. I mean, we got to run for Buddy, and we got to run for Ditka. So we made a pledge with Buddy that, look, Buddy, if we don't lose anymore, we don't run the ladder. We don't run the shuttle. Exactly. You remember that? And Buddy said, yeah, okay, great, because we got to run, then we got to do walkthrough. So Buddy wants you to be like what you be in the game, tired, trying to make decisions, checkpoint. And yet then Ditka wants to run us, so, defensive wise, we're running a whole lot. So we made this bet, and we said we're not losing anymore because we don't run that ladder anymore.
What happened after the Miami game?
Nothing happened at the Miami game. We was looking for Miami to show up, but, Miami couldn't show up. But, that game, I think that, I was tripping over all kind of things. I don't know, ghosties out there or whatever they was. But, I think what they did, they spread us out. They did half roll. They get rid of the ball quick, right? And at that time, Buddy and Mike was fighting on the sideline at halftime because Buddy was putting more people on the line of scrimmage. Mike was trying to throw the ball like the Miami Dolphins. And, you look at the Dolphins was 28th in stopping the run. So it's like, why are we out here trying to throw the ball? And Dick is getting that Buddy, like, why are you putting everybody on the line of scrimmage? You got 2 head coaches there, and there was a little fight going on, but we could use the loss. We wasn't thinking about being undefeated, but after that game, we looked at coming into that game, we had an opportunity to be undefeated. And some of the guys thought maybe we should go down there and practice, get used to the weather, and, Buddy came up with it, so says, let's talk to Mike. We said, this ain't gonna happen. If Buddy coming up with it, asking Mike. If Mike would have came up with it, we probably would have went. But the point of it is that we was looking forward to seeing Miami show up again. They just couldn't show up.
And to add to that, Mark Clayton, he's a Louisville guy, and can't think of
Duper.
Duper, yeah.
Mark Clayton.
Yeah.
But they were Nat Moore. That's the name. That's the name I'm talking about. Nat Moore has a golf outing, so I go to the golf outing. So they figured they'd give me a little information on how they won that football game. They seem to think the fact that when Buddy left Wilbur in to take care of that slot guy, whoever he was, sometimes he was Duper, sometimes it was Clayton, that they was going to exploit that and take advantage of that. And that's what they tried to do. So You know,
Right.
Richard, you know, hit it on the head. You don't win every football game. We figured they beat us, and we get an opportunity, hopefully, to get back at them, but they couldn't get through New England. So 18-1 wasn't bad.
I'm kind of glad they didn't show up because, you know, I love Jimbo, and when I went to the Pro Bowl, Jimbo told me, hey, take it easy on Danny. I said, okay, Jimbo, I'll do that, you know. So I went and hit him. I said, you know, that one's on Jimbo, okay? The next one's on me, right? So, you know, if they would have showed up, it would have been, it would have been pretty ugly, guys. I don't know, you know, because we really look forward to seeing those guys in the Super Bowl, but they didn't make it.
So he had the great running game. Your impact in the speed department to help stretch the field, how critical was that, honestly, to the Bears offense?
Well, as a speed guy, there's very few things that I can control as a receiver. I can't control the play being called. I can't control the defense. I can't control the quarterback throwing the ball or the lineman blocking. The only thing I can control is me being in shape, knowing my plays, and doing my best. So I tried to make sure that I was the fastest guy on the field all the time, in better shape than everyone else. I always ran extra. I ran with these guys extra after practice. So every time I stepped on the field, I was the fastest guy, and I was in better shape than anyone else on the field. That's what I can control. So
You're probably still the fastest shape,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. So I think as a receiver, you look at that and you make your contribution. I was very pleased at what I was able to do. I mean, I had a great running back. We had a great running back named Walter Payton. So we didn't throw the ball a lot. I led my team, you know, all 5 years I was here in receiving and yardage. So I think I contributed as much as I could. I ran fast. I cleared out for other guys. You know, we play unselfishly, really. I think, and today it's a little bit different because everybody's about me. But I sometimes would get 1 or 2 passes thrown to me a game, but that was part of the game. I ran, cleared out for Dennis, cleared out for Emery. If I didn't do my job, they didn't get catches. So I think it was important to do that from an unselfish standpoint. And, you know, Chicago, look, I've been around the world, and Chicago is probably the best city in the world for me. It has an amazing city. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. I'm not just saying it because I'm here. I say that everywhere I go. Chicago made an amazing impact on my life, and it's the best city in America. It just gets too cold. You didn't have the weather, I think it would be too many people here. But it's a great city, great fans, great people, and it's definitely a Chicago Bear town. I think Coach Hallis for giving me the opportunity to play here. You know, he gave the reins to Jim Finks to draft people and to bring the right players in. I think it was a vision of his to see that, and of course it's carried on through his daughter and his grandkids. So it's a great organization, a great city, and I was very pleased to be a part of it for 5 years and be a part of something like this that you can never, ever forget, and it'll always be a part of my life. Like Richard said, you forget, you miss the playing with the guys, you miss the locker room, you miss the trips, and those are the things that I'll keep with me forever.
And we all miss Walter Payton. So across the board, let's talk Walter, because we didn't have the ability to have, obviously, a seminar and a discussion with all the great backs. Yeah. Tom and Jay, you blocked for them. You're in that huddle. Emery, Willie, Richard, you and Otis, great friends with him. Let's talk Walter, everybody. We'll start with Tommy.
You know, it was weird for me because I was in awe of Walter. I was more of a fan of his than a teammate. And because you grow up in the area and you know that the Bears went through some lean years, but there was always greatness in Walter Payton. So when you had the chance to come in here and be an offensive lineman for him and be on the same team, you just wanted to meet his approval, just like you did with Ditka and just like you did with Dick Stanfeld, our offensive line coach. You felt if you could meet their approval, then you were kind of on the road to doing something special.
Well, I mean, obviously you guys blocked for him. My experience with Walter was, you know, on every Tuesdays was our day off. So we would go hunting. It was Roland Harper, myself, and Walter, and, you know, me coming from Brooklyn, New York, I know nothing about outdoor life and hunting and woods and all that stuff. So obviously he had to tell me what to go buy. And, you know, I got all my fatigues, the green stuff, and got my over and under rifle, and we went bird hunting. We would hit pheasant hunting, so we had a chance to really sit down and really get to know somebody. I think we were right up there by you, Jay. It's a place called Twin Willow Pheasant Farm.
Right,
we used to go up there right there in Kenosha.
Absolutely.
And we go up there and just spend the whole day, you know, shooting birds, and then they give you the birds and you go home and cook them. But
they're expensive,
you know,
too.
everybody knows Walter as a great, great football player. But Walter was the coolest guy that I knew. I mean, always had a smile on his face. He never said anything derogatory about somebody. I mean, he shared everything he had. That's the great thing about it. You know, he had all of the nightclubs in Schaumburg. So when we win a football game, we go to the restaurant or the club, and we just have carte blanche. If you want to drive fast cars, you can take one of his cars. And I mean, it was just great spending 7 years playing with him. And the only thing I didn't like about Walter was when he went and worked out on this hill. Over in Arlington Heights, he had this huge hill, and I figured, you know, 6'3 and a half, 245, in shape. I'm gonna run up this hill more than Walter. After about the third time, I went up this hill and came back down. I never saw that hill again. I mean, and he would run up and down this hill like it was nothing. And then I said, well, okay, I see you got to pace yourself. So from that point on, I started pacing myself. But a great individual, a great athlete, a good family man. You can't say nothing bad about Walter.
Yeah, Walter was a phenomenal athlete and a great person. And like Tom said, coming from Evanston, you know, you've heard about Walter. I played 4 years before I got to play with Walter. And when I came here, I was, you know, he's the best player in the football at that time and always will be in my mind. I was very fortunate because in my situation, like I said before, I was in New York for 3 years with the Giants, a year in Denver. I was playing wide receiver, fullback. And when I moved to tight end, we were very fortunate the next year to get Willie because Willie stretched the field just like he was talking about. And then I was playing tight end, so it was easy for me to get away from linebacker because I had played wide receiver, and it was easy for me to release on bigger guys than it was the smaller guys. But then you throw in play action pass to Walter Payton. I mean, they'd fake that ball to Walter. Willie be running down the sideline, clearing it out, and I'm coming off the line and crossing the field, and I'd be wide open. I love playing tight end with these guys out there because you got to give Walter the respect, and they'd fake that ball to Walter and pull it out, and I'd release, and I'd be down the field crossing, and them guys would be turning around looking, going, oh, God, there he go. And I averaged almost close to 16 yards a catch in my career because of Walter Payton and Willie Gault doing what they do. So appreciate them guys.
Battery may have died. Switch out a mic here.
Hello. Okay. So my experience with Walter is a little bit different. I met Walter before I became a Bear. I actually met him at a charity event maybe a couple years before I became a Bear, so I knew him. And when I was drafted by the Bears, he was one of the first guys I called. He called me and congratulated me, which was great. And when I got there, my very first touchdown, people don't know that, was thrown to me by Walter Payton. Yeah. And actually, I caught my first touchdown. I caught 3 touchdowns at one day in New Orleans. Walter threw me one, Jim McMahon threw me one, and Walter threw me another one. So I had 2 touchdown passes from Walter Payton. So as a football player, I think no one can argue that he's probably the best to ever play. I mean, from a runner, blocker, passer, the way he worked, he was arguably the best player ever to play the game, certainly at running back. And you probably don't know this, but Walter was a practical joker also. I mean, you always had your head on a squirrel when you're around Walter because you never know what was going to happen. I mean, we go on the practice field, and all of a sudden, a firecracker or a missile will go off, and it's Walter. You know, he put Jock H powder in your jock, you know, or heat bomb in your underwear or something. It was just crazy. And he would hug you so tight because he was so strong, and he'd try to squeeze the breath out of you, which, you know, I'm a small guy, so that wasn't hard for him to do me like that. So, but yeah, Walter was a great player, great to play with. He worked amazingly. His work ethic was second to none, and just a tragic loss, and we really miss him, really miss that guy.
William? William have anything?
Say
Walter?
again?
William.
Walter?
Well, I couldn't say too much about him. The guy was great, and he ran hard, and he blocked and everything else. He did everything. I mean, he's a great football player all the way around, and you couldn't say nothing about him because he was that good.
Yeah, I mean, my experience, you know, obviously coming from a small black college, used to play against his school, so watched him a lot as a kid, just like you guys sitting here looking at us. That's how I was looking at him, and we was on the plane when we fly. Walter sit the first row outside of first class, and he got those first 3 seats. So the rule of the thumb, no one sits with him, because if you sit with him, you get hurt. So I said, you know, I'm going to sit with him. I got to sit here and talk to this man because, you know, I've been watching him for all these years. And clearly next week, you know, I tore my hamstring and hurt my ankle. So I was done for the whole preseason. But while I was sitting there, you know, just kind of getting off of meeting Walter, and he said, hey, I'm going to actually show you a trick. I said, okay, what? So he had this deck of cards. He had it there for a while. They looked like beat up. And he said, you think I can tear this deck? I said, no, I don't think so. And he tore the deck in about 20 seconds. I looked and said, stewardess, give me another deck of cards, right? So the stewardess came back with a brand new deck, opened it up. I gave it to him, and it took him about 30 seconds longer. And he tore that deck. And I said, boy, at that point, you know, he was like God to me. You know what I mean? I mean, this guy is so strong, yet got the sweetest voice and the sweetest person you ever want to meet. But yet, when you talking about hand strength that way, it's like, you know, I'm never going to get in your way. You're never going to have a problem with me. But, you know, I used to love watching him do his thing. I had a pass rush move where he'd kick his leg that I kind of equated into my game. And, you know, when we get in that huddle on the field, he would always say, don't do what I say, do what I do. And that means when he's on the field, watching him do his thing, you know, he may say, you see us at head, hips, but yet, you know, if he's not doing it, you know, you don't do it. But the point of it is, watching him go to work is what, you know, you live for, to work at that level. Yeah, and that's what I try to do week in and week out, to compete and play at that level the way he played.
You know, these are all great things you're hearing about Walter, and it's tough to, you know, a format like this. It'd take all night to sit here, and you could tell Walter Payton stories and what he meant to all of us. And he really took time, I think, personally, to get to know everybody on the team, which was something. And what I really appreciate about it, you know, I came into the Bears, you know, a nobody from nowhere, and when I made the team, Ray Early, who was the equipment guy at the time, put my locker next to Walter. So I lockered next to Walter for years, and that was a great experience. I mean, that was amazing. He razzed me so many times in the morning. There's some embarrassing stuff I can't even talk about, but it was all good fun. But the thing is, the way he would treat you as a teammate outside of Hallis Hall was special. The way he would come and focus on you, and I played in some Pro Bowls with him, and the way that he would still recognize me as his teammate there, and the way that personal relationship that we had would be stronger than any relationship he had over there in Hawaii, and he'd want to spend time with you over there too. It's just a huge loss he's not with us, but I mean the memories of what he was and how hard he worked and inspired, and just his attitude is the thing that I think inspired all of us. I mean, I remember when we were starting to make the playoffs, and you could just tell how much he wanted to win the playoffs. I remember the one time he talked to the team, he was willing to give up all the money he made in the playoffs to divide it up amongst us, because that's all he wanted, an opportunity to get in the playoffs. And that's, I mean, I think we all maybe felt a little special thing that in the '85 year that we all wanted to win the Super Bowl for ourselves, of course, but in our heart, I mean, Walter, we all loved Walter Payton, no question about it.
You know, one thing about Walter is if you ever look at a picture of Walter outside of football, away from the facility, you look at every person in the background in the picture, they're all smiling. And, you know, Walter could walk into an elevator, and by the time that elevator stops, everybody's smiling and happy. There was a couple times, and Walter, I got to play with Walter for a couple of years, but there's a couple times where he would drive down to Joliet and come and sit in my mom and dad's backyard. And I have some pictures of it. We have a photo album of it. And the kids from the neighborhood would all gather around his motorcycle, and they'd all be sitting on it wearing his helmet. But every single person and every single picture in the background had a smile on their face. And he's so unlike the superstars of today, because they have an entourage or they have an attitude where they almost make people uncomfortable. Walter Payton was the complete opposite. No matter what scenario he was in, he made everybody feel comfortable.
Number one on the list of the Bears' top 100 in your Centennial Scrapbook. Make sure you pick one up before the weekend is over. Outstanding publication. Number one on the list. We all agree. All right, let's roll some of those Super Bowl 20 highlights. How about it? Bears got their Super Bowl, and I don't even know where to begin, because you guys knew you were winning this damn game. There was no doubt about it.
We knew we'd win if we didn't turn the ball over. Unfortunately, you know, that first series we turned the ball over.
But when they have a minus 26 yards total offense at halftime, you sort of figure the game's almost over.
That one there went for, you didn't have to go but 20 yards in. But I mean, the first play to me when, you know, we came in the game saying, hey, you know, let's shut these guys out. We played them before. We knew they didn't have much. We've shut two teams out, so we was like, let's go for it again. And obviously, Walter from the ball, some people got upset. It's your big catch there, Willie.
Right, that play right there, Willie. I remember McMahon in the huddle saying, hey, give it this one more second here. This could go for a long play. I mean, he called it.
When he called it, I was like, okay, great, I'm ready.
That was the first play of the second half, I think.
First play of the second half.
Yeah, where was that 35-yard field position there, man? We were on the 2-yard line. How did that happen?
2-yard line, exactly.
Yeah.
Reggie Phillips.
But my play, I mean, that looks great. I mean, anyway, so we got to go out now to stop the guys from scoring.
Boom!
That's a headache right there, folks. I promise you. So we got to knock these guys out. We can't let them score, because generally when the first one scored, they say normally win the Super Bowl. So, you know, people have been patting us on our back and telling us how great we were, and now you got to go on the field right away. So my first play, I get knocked on my ass, okay? I mean, I come off, they go play action, Holloway hits me in the chest, and I'm trying to not fall back on my back. I'm off balance, and I see him coming back to wipe me out. So I say, either you can hit reset or you let this man take you out. So, of course, you hit reset. And all I thought about was da-na-na, da-na-na, being on TV, knocked on my ass. And I said, you know, now you said, well, you know, you're playing the Super Bowl. Why would, you know, you need someone to strike? If you've never been there, you don't know, right? But the point of it is I had that opportunity to hit reset and became MVP.
That's great, awesome. So when they announced my name to run on the field, I couldn't hardly feel my feet hit the ground. I mean, because think about it, the magnitude of the Super Bowl. I grew up watching the Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, 1 billion people are watching me. So I was really, it's like a nervous energy. I mean, it's hard to describe, but I was ready, but I was really gutsy inside. It's like such a huge feeling. But once I touched the ball for the first kickoff return, it all just became a normal game.
Right.
And it became just a regular game. But that first play was something that was really, because you don't want to make a mistake, but yet you know what you're doing, but because you're a professional, but yet you also know there's millions of people watching you. But then once you touch the ball, it's just another game.
When Fridge got into the backfield, whether it be San Francisco, Green Bay, the offensive lineman, we used to say, you better make a good block, because if you don't and William hits you in the back,
Hit you in the back.
you're going to get hurt, you're going to get pushed out of the way, and it's going to look bad. So William was great in center for us when they did give him the ball to make a good block to get out of the way.
It's a big game, but the point of it is, you know, you don't make it more than what it is. It's the same game for higher stakes. You know, some people come out and they change their ways. When you do that, you just blink. It's over, okay? It's the same game you played throughout the year, but now it's just at higher levels.
Yeah, it's just like the Olympics, you know, it's the same thing.
Yeah, right. But see, Olympics, you got to wait. You
No,
got to
it's the
wait.
Olympics.
You got to wait 4. You got to wait 4 years to get what? 10 seconds to get it done, right? Can't mess around.
Yeah, I think that, you know, playing in the Super Bowl, I was going into my 9th year, but we had already beat New England earlier that year. So we were pretty confident. And when the defense, when they tried to run the ball or pass the ball 3 times in a row, I think they knew that they knew they couldn't run the ball against our defense. And I remember years ago, probably about 10 years ago, I was at an event up in Canada, and Steve Grogan was there, who was the quarterback. And he said, Emory, he said, I'm still ducking from number 55 over there. He said, every time I see a bear, I'm ducking, he said.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I'll
tell
you,
for me personally, I mean, the Super Bowl is probably, like a lot of these guys saying, it's still a football game. Yes, it's still football, but yet the hype around it makes it a huge, huge event. And everybody, when you're playing in an event like that, you want to put your best foot forward. And, you know, I was never shy in words. And they asked me, well, what do you think about are y'all going to win the Super Bowl? I said, yeah, we're going to win the Super Bowl, and we're going to shut them out if all of us stay healthy and play well together. And obviously, we see the outcome of it, 46-10, and, you know, Fridge get in there and do his thing. It was just a phenomenal event, and I enjoyed it. You know, Richard, he was MVP. How many sacks did you have, Richard? Because I had like 2 sacks that game. You had what, 3 or 4?
No, actually it's not that. I didn't know, you know, I thought going into the playoffs, you know, I had got 3-4 sacks at the first game.
Hey,
and 3
Tom,
sacks the
how
second
many
game.
great blocks did
Timeout.
you have in the Super Bowl?
Everyone.
Yeah,
Willie
yeah,
had
we
100
were dominating,
they don't
Tom.
count
Willie
those
had
blocks.
129 yards
They don't
receiving
count
and a
blocks.
touchdown.
record of the
Well,
time.
it wasn't sacks, it's turnovers.
Emory, you had a good catch in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he
too.
got a tip. One.
Jim Morrissey had the longest interception return in the Super Bowl that didn't result in a touchdown.
Hey, ask him how
Guys
many
were all
turnovers
great.
they
They were all great
How many
players.
times I was
Give it up
outside?
for these guys. They were all great. They all Jay. contributed. Hey, Jay,
Hey.
once again, y'all had the ball on the 35-yard line.
That's what I was about to say. You know? So they run the ball at me, the first turnover, and I'm like, Craig James or whoever the kid. I'm like,
They were all afraid.
I mean, I'm like, what is this that they're running? I'm like, this is disrespectful. You run this, and you know, don't get it wrong. I'm like, it's not often you see a white guy playing tailback, okay, in the National Football League. You just don't see that often. And I'm looking at him, he looking at me. I just reached in and said, give me that ball, man. You don't know what you're doing. And y'all get the ball on 20-yard line, you score a touchdown. Matt Seward,
for sure.
all right?
You know, a lot of times people talk about, you know, Walter, why didn't Walter score in that game? And this game, it got out of hand so fast. I mean, at halftime, we knew the game was over. With 6 minutes in the third quarter, all the starters on offense were already on the bench. Reggie Phillips intercepts a pass and runs it back. Jim Morrissey
runs it back. Hayseed picks up a fumble for a safety. The
We
game
was having
got out of control so fast that game, and we were just so ready to play our very best game. And, you know, I just, you know, Walter should have got a touchdown, but I'm telling you, everybody was playing their butt off that day. And sometimes you got to be a decoy. And they wanted to stop Walter. That's their main plan on our offense, was to stop Walter. But everybody else stepped up. Just like Richard says about the team, our offense stood up, the special team stood up, the defense stood up, and that's how we played a great game that day.
And we wanted to make the city of Chicago happy and having a lot of fun early. We wanted to get your party started at halftime. You don't have to wait, baby. It was on.
Well, think about it. Think about it. Okay, think about this one thing for 1 second. Joe Namath predicted they were going to win the Super Bowl at the Super Bowl. We predicted we were going to be in the Super Bowl in game number 3 of that year because we made the Super Bowl shuffle in game number 3, right? So that's the best prediction that came true ever. Game number 3, we made the Super Bowl shuffle, and we won the Super Bowl. So.
That don't happen often, folks, I promise.
Yeah, but it was the offensive line that did the black and blues poster
yeah.
first.
Tell us about that. What's
We
up
were
with
first.
that?
We were number 1. We started it off, the O-line.
You're right.
Yeah, the
I
Black
like
and
that.
Blues
You guys
brothers.
looking cool like that. That was fun.
We signed 1 million of those things, haven't we, Tom?
Right. I got a few still in there.
And how, you know, the other thing you autograph all the time is the game.
Bobble dog?
The program, yeah, the program, the
game
game you autograph. You know, the Superdome holds 80,000, something like that. I know I've signed over 100,000 programs at the Super Bowl. I mean, shoot.
All right, we have just a couple of minutes to go, so we'll take a couple of fan questions. This is from Chris. Thanks for coming from Oxford, England.
All right.
England.
Bears are headed there. Bears will be headed. Where are you? There you go. Properly wearing 34. He wants you guys to put into words what it felt like to step out on Soldier Field on Sundays. All these home games in that era of Bears football. What it was like to be playing in front of those fans at Soldier Field.
Well, there's no doubt about it. It's an honor and a pleasure, you know, to play in Soldiers Field, and because of the history, you know, of Soldiers Field and just the history of the organization itself, the oldest organization, and to wear that uniform with pride, and you know, having guys like this, it's a lot of pressure. Because if you don't play, you're gonna pretty much be embarrassed because somebody else is gonna do something special.
Right. Yeah. For me, you know, I would love to play in the stadium today because you know you can hear the noise. But when we was playing, the noise would just go away so fast. But to watch Walter step out of the huddle and start clapping, and the whole stand start clapping, it was just magical. I said, shit, I want that kind of power, you know. I wanted to be like that, you know. So to have the people to respond like that to him, you know, it just tells it tells the players how much, you know, the people appreciate the game itself here in Chicago.
And think about it. We get an opportunity to play for an amazing city like Chicago. We get a chance to play for an owner who helped create the league, and there's rich tradition there. And then to be able to play with guys like this, to run on Soldier Field, and to make touchdowns, and to win games, and to bring a championship back to Chicago was really a special, something that I'll always carry with me no matter where I go, no matter what I do for the rest of my life. So it's great.
Anybody else?
It's just, you know, coming into Chicago and playing in front of great fans like Chicago, playing for the Chicago Bears, you know, George Halas, just all that, and on top of it, to win the Super Bowl and to win the championship, and the interaction we had with the crowds. I mean, it's a special time in our life. It's the biggest moment in all of our lives.
Yeah, you know, when I came from Evanston, so I grew up watching Gale Sayers and Dick Buckus. So when I got a chance to play for the Bears, I knew the history. I knew a little bit of history, but one of the great things that they did in the early 80s is George Halas put the book Halas by Halas in every player's hands when they came to the Chicago Bears. So you could read about the history of the Bears, the history of the league, how it struggled early, and I think that's something that's missing today. People don't know the history. The players don't know the history of their teams, of the leagues, and I thought that was just a phenomenal thing. Even though I thought I knew the Bears, I didn't know the Bears till I read the book. And I think every player that plays for the Bears should learn the history of the Chicago Bears.
Otis, before you go, if I could say, before you go, I could say that, you know, one moment that was really special in my heart at Soldier Field is when we won the championship game, or actually Wilbur Marshall was running the touchdown, and I'm looking at Fred swinging his arm up and down. I'm looking at that dark gap in between his mouth. You probably don't remember that, Fridge. I don't know, but yet seeing him and looking at you, Otis, the celebration, how the fans, the championship game to me was more important than the Super Bowl. It's something that's the championship game is something that I would always remember more so than the Super Bowl in Chicago.
All right, Willie.
Yes.
NFC Championship game.
Yes.
Here are some of the highlights. We're going to be wrapping up here any second, but it was a total demolition. Total demolition in every way, shape, and form. Huh?
Emery running downfield there.
Yeah, I had legs back then.
It was so amazing because
Sportsy.
This is a touchdown, which was a great throw by Jim, and I was just in the back corner of the end zone.
Twinkle toes, look at that.
Got it started. And after the last play, it started to snow.
Yep.
Right, and that's the
really
icing came
so
on.
Poetic. It was poetic
I
justice.
mean,
And I also have to
it's-
say, I was really impressed. When we got back the day after the Super Bowl, I think there was 25 or 35,000 fans in below zero weather to greet us for our parade, which was amazing. So where else can you go to find that type of support than Chicago?
Here's the play.
Yeah.
Here's the play.
Yeah.
Fridge, your picture's coming up, and Otis, yours
There's
coming up
William.
here too. Yes, this is with the snow coming down, putting the icing on the cake in
William,
Chicago, making it happen.
Hey, I just wanted you guys to score because I didn't want to go out and run more
I
plays.
told you, we told you, just hold them, we'll come back and score. You remember that? No.
All right, before we wrap it up, since it's a top 40 hit, little Super Bowl shuffle, Willie.
Oh, Willie got the chocolate swirl.
Willie, yeah.
Willie, get that line, Willie.
And then we're wrapping up.
Okay,
Send
this
us
is
off, my
Speedy
friend.
Willie, and I'm world class. I like running, but I love to catch a pass. I practice all day and dance all night. I got to get ready for the Sunday fight. Now, I'm as smooth as a chocolate swirl. I dance a little funky, so watch me, girl. There's no one here that does it like me. My Super Bowl shuffle shall set you free.
A mama's boy Otis, one of a kind. The ladies all love me from my body and my mind. I'm slick on the floor.
They call me sweetness.
But
They
ain't
call
no
me
sucker
sweetness,
gonna
and I
get
like to
past me.
dance.
The
Run the
guys
balls
that
like
tell us
make a
I'm a
romance.
fact.
We had the ball since training camp to give Chicago a Super Bowl champ. Now, we're not doing this because we're greedy. The Bears are doing it to feed the needy. I didn't come here looking for trouble. I just came here to do the Super Bowl show.
Yeah, all right.
You're looking at the
champions.
friends. I'm the rookie. I may be large, but I'm no done cookie. You see me hit, you see me run, but catch the bag.
I'm a rookie. I may be large, but I'm no done cookie. You see me hit, you see me run. When I kick and pass, I have more fun. I can dance. You will see. They all learn from me. I didn't come here looking for trouble. I just came through the Super Bowl.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy your weekend.
We'll see you tomorrow.